All right, welcome into another episode of Nightmare Stories of the Otherside. Tonight I welcome in Katie Paige. Welcome in, and finally it seems like we've been going back and forth on trying to get this podcast up for a few months now.
That's so true. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I know. Finally, we made it work because it was back and forth, but here we are.
Yep,
So I'm happy to be here.
yes. So would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, I mean, like so many of, the people that are involved, whether it's the paranormal, cryptids, or UFOs, we all, share at least somewhat of an experience, or at least at the very least a curiosity in these topics. And for me, back when I was a young girl, my mother dated a gentleman who bought property in Elbert County, Colorado, and this was during the height of all the strange animal mutilations. Linda Moulton Howe got her start out there as an investigative journalist. So there was all these strange helicopter sightings, paranormal things going on, cryptid sightings. This actually predated the Skinwalker Ranch by over, gosh, 15 years. And so all these
Wow.
strange things happened to me as a young girl. And my sister and I have a big sister. We were kind of threatened and warned really not to talk about what was happening out there. So, as many of us do, we get busy with life, raising a family and children and things like that. So, it wasn't really until my mid to late 40s that I started revisiting that. And you know, so many of us like started reading books and watching
Yep.
documentaries and movies, anything I can get my hands on to, learn about what was happening out there.
So like growing up for what would you really say would have been your first experience related to UFOs and then also the paranormal.
Yeah, I mean, it started from really early on for me. Actually, my grandfather, and he had a house in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and he had a sighting of an oblong shaped craft over Lake Como that was investigated by J. Allen Hynek. So, as a really young child, I heard of, these kind of things occurring. And then going back, so I was actually born in the state of Illinois, and
Okay.
going back and forth from Lake Geneva to Illinois, my mother and family and sister and I had a sighting of another oblong shaped craft right over the border. So I always heard my mom saying, after that sighting, we pulled the car over and the thing was just kind of there and you were like mesmerized. So that was kind of a story. I don't remember seeing that, but I always, over holidays and stuff, we talk about these things. My mom would talk about seeing the apparition of my father's mother in Illinois. So I'd hear ghost stories growing up and things like that. And and so I'm 9, 10, 11, 12 years old during the ranch years and at home. So I lived about 45 minutes away from the ranch itself. I did not live there full time, thank goodness, or I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing because it was terrifying. But I think I had the hitchhiker effect happening even at a young age, and I didn't. That's kind of a relatively new term, the hitchhiker thing with, you know, the Pentagon book. But so I always had shadow figures and paranormal things going on in my life. So it's kind of, I hate to say it, but my whole life's been sort of touched by these phenomena, I
Okay.
would say. Not one thing in particular.
Yeah, so for people that eventually will watch this podcast that may not know, could you explain the hitchhiker effect?
Yeah, well, let me back up just a little bit and tell you how I learned about. Um, I gobbled up watching documentaries. I learned about MUFON, which is the Mutual UFO Network. I'm no longer with MUFON. I am focused on Rocky Mountain Ranch research, but in MUFON, I, started really going down the UFO path, and I bought this book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, and it's about the Skinwalker Ranch, which is now kind of famous thanks
Yeah.
to the History Channel and all that. And in this chapter, in this book, there's a chapter called Other Hotspots. And I started reading that and I started reading about a ranch in Colorado. And I was like, oh my God, that has to be the ranch of my childhood. Back in the days of APRO, which is the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, they dubbed the ranch the Clearview Ranch because they didn't want to give away the location of the ranch and they
Hmm.
used pseudonyms. So I learned in this book That Dr. Leo Sprinkle was an investigator. He was a PhD out of Laramie, Wyoming. Peter Van Arsdale, PhD, and John Durr, PhD, and others investigated the ranch. And that was the first time I really learned anybody knew about the ranch. So ever since then, which has been, gosh, since 2012 now, I've been just going down this rabbit hole of investigation and learning what was going on there. Because my big question has always been how much of it was government black access projects and how much of it was actual UFO, paranormal, cryptid activity. And I've been trying to find answers to that ever since. So, what was your original question?
The hitchhiker effect.
The
Could you
Hitchhiker
explain
Effect.
that?
Yes, yes, yes. So the second book that's why I brought this up. Okay, so the second book to this was uh it's up there. Strangers at the Pentagon and not Strangers at the Pentagon. Oh my gosh. Um oh my gosh, why can't I think of the name of it? Let me grab it really quickly. Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Duh. But this is a book that really spoke of the hitchhiker effect and really what they have found. And what's interesting, even when they have investigators and researchers visit Skinwalker Ranch, their wives are living back home, back east, and not even going to the ranch. And their wives will experience the hitchhiker effect, which could be, electrical things malfunctioning in your house. A lot of it's very paranormal in nature, very trickster in nature. So shadow figures, seeing orbs inside and outside your home. I had one encounter with an orb, things like that. So just paranormal things seem to increase for some people. Some people will get physical effects. I was on all three seasons of Beyond Skinwalker with the Rocky Mountain Ranch, and one of the rocket guys, they like shooting rockets on these shows, right? And
Okay.
so one of the rockets, we were launching the little rocket to kind of poke the hornet's nest, kind of, hey, we're here kind of thing. And one of the rocket guys who happened to be a veteran, which is a whole other topic we could get into. So many people that have UFO encounters and things happen to have military backgrounds, which is interesting. And
Yeah, for sure.
I think that that happens because if you were erased from outside of our planet, I think I would be interested in military families
Yep.
because we hold the weapons. So there could be a reason for that. But he felt like he got punched in the gut. So that can also be a form of the hitchhiker effect. Just, physical things happening to you, things like that. So, for me, it manifested in orbs, or at least the one orb sighting and shadow figures, these dark shadows.
Okay. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So,
So.
kind of going back, like how many paranormal investigations, have you done over the years versus like UFO research? What would like be the balance there?
Right. What really got me hooked and just really took a deep dive into the paranormal world was the good old show Ghost Hunters.
Oh
And I
yeah.
can't believe how long that's been on the air now. So I was just addicted to that. Mom never missed an episode of Ghost Hunters. So I was lucky enough to, in the early days, even back, like I think it was first season, maybe first two season, not Kristen Gartland, but the original Kristen was on there. So my son and I and my niece and her husband flew to St. Augustine Lighthouse, and we did an investigation there because my favorite episode of Ghost Hunters was at St. Augustine Lighthouse in Florida when you see that shadow, like the hand go across, and then you see a dark shadow go like this
Yep.
from the top of the lighthouse. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get there. So I was lucky enough to do that. And then I did two other investigations with them at the Stanley Hotel and got to know the lead ghost hunter. Her name's Callie. Years ago, she's no longer there at the Stanley Hotel. So investigated there and other locations around the state of Colorado. And I lived in a very haunted house, which used to be my dad's house, and I know who haunted it. So that's a whole interesting story in of itself. But really, yeah, the paranormal stuff, I've been doing, since gosh, probably the mid 90s, I would guess if I had to put a date on it, you know.
So what kind of experiences did you have at the Stanley Hotel?
Yeah, okay. So a couple funny stories there. Um, I have a website, katiepage.net, and there's a page on my website that's for paranormal. So if anybody's watching this and they want to see this video, First of all, just taking pictures like you do around of the elk
Yeah.
and things like that. One of the rooms in the carriage house was known to be really haunted, and I swear I could see like a face looking out the window. I send it to the ghost hunters, and they're like, "Yeah, it's matrixing, and it could be clouds, but to me it looks pretty cool." But what's really interesting, and you can see it on my website, there's a short video from my son. He's my second oldest son. And him and his wife, they're kind of skeptics, a little bit like they want to
Okay.
have an experience, but they're very skeptical of everything. And him and his wife were staying at the Stanley, and they're going into their room, and the door at the end, it's not windy, it's not anything, is doing something interesting. So he starts filming, and you can hear the commentary on the film, and you can almost see a dark shadow holding the door, which
Oh,
is
that's crazy.
fascinating. It's really cool. And then as he's kind of walking back, you hear him talking, and then all of a sudden the door goes slam like that. We've also did in the Stephen King room. I got to stay there one night. I was pretty comfortable. Nothing happened when we stayed there. However, I had fun though. I was like, people would come and get pictures, in front of the door and stuff, and I would jiggle the handle and kind of,
Yeah.
oh, so I had kind of fun with that. But when we were doing an investigation there, we did an EVP session in there and had a lot of responses in that particular room, along with the room with, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he said to kind of mess with the girls, and you hear the children running up and down the hall. That's actually the room in one of the episodes. I think it's a Halloween special for Ghost Hunters where the table kind of shifts and moves.
Okay. I
That
think I
was
remember
that
that one.
particular room. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was known to be kind of a womanizer and stuff. So he has a thing for like pulling girls' hairs and things like that. But in that room in particular, too, we had a lot of EVP responses, which is it's hard when you're with groups of people. I want to say there was like 7 people in the room. I think always kind of taints the evidence a little bit.
Yeah,
The
especially in a
smaller the group, the better.
yeah, especially like in a smaller room. If you're in a larger location, if you have more people, then it's not as hard to taint because you're
Right.
spread out.
Right. And I know like the 2 events I did with Ghost Hunters, they had the place to themselves for that event, but still it's an event. So you still have 150 people scattered throughout. So it's one of those deals where you kind of take things with a grain of salt,
Yeah,
like, but EVPs are harder to kind of to fake that way, because you're really hearing through the headphones and things. So, but people can make little noises and that. And of course, you're trained to kind of call out, oh, that was George sneezing or so and so shifting in their chair. So
yeah,
you don't think it's something later. But um, yeah, but I always say like when it comes to the paranormal and ghosts, I'm like 100% a believer. When it comes to aliens, ETs, UFOs, I'm like 90% there. And I still ebb and flow back and forth because so much of what we see in the skies and what we experience are our own secret tech or black access projects. So, there's some great cases out there, some really cool videos, but paranormal ghost, yep, 100%. You know.
yeah. So for investigating out in Colorado, what are some other, great locations out there? Because I've only heard of like a few, like obviously the Stanley Hotel and the Black Monarch Hotel. Those are like the two I know of, but besides that, I don't know of anything else.
Yeah, so if you're a South Park fan, there's a little town called Fairplay, Colorado, and they have the Hand Hotel there. It's an old historic hotel, and what's cool about that place, it's known to be very haunted. Stay there with my kids, and on the off season, you can actually rent out the whole place.
Nice.
Because it's like it's more set up like an Airbnb. They have very historic rooms. There's not very many rooms there. So that's a haunted place. And then in Manitou Springs, just down the mountain from me, I'm behind Pikes Peak. In Manitou, there's the Ana Lodge and some other very Marymount Castle, things like that. Some old historic locations that are said to be haunted there as well. Then there's Baby Doe's Restaurant, which is actually in Littleton, Colorado. And Baby Doe's has been a haunted spot for a long, long time, in particular, the woman's bathroom. So if you ever find
Okay.
yourself in Colorado and you're in Littleton, go to Baby Doe's right there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you said you like investigated other places out there. So like what other places and like what kind of evidence and experiences do you have?
Yeah, the biggest ghost thing that I've ever experienced in my life happened. So my father, who passed away in 96, he was married four different times in his life. In his, let's see, it would have been his third wife, Midge. I always say they were like best friends together, but they bought this little house in Englewood, Colorado, and Midge died in that house. She had an asthma attack. And you have to know something about my dad here. My dad was like old school, kind of Archie, just like when you die, you're dirt kind of thing. Like he didn't
Hmm.
believe in anything. He didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't believe in anything. And so for this to happen to him is makes it even more crazy in my opinion. But anyway, so Midge had an asthma attack at the house and passed away right there in the bedroom. And they had a cat named Precious, meanest cat ever. It's kind of an ironic name for Precious, but this
Yeah.
cat like acted very strange. So, my dad calls the ambulance. Hospital's only a few blocks away. He gets back. The cat is waiting for him. Precious starts vomiting, like knew something was wrong. And right after, gosh, it was like a month after Midge passed away, my dad meets another lady named Liz at a bar. My dad and Liz get married in the backyard of that house. And you got to know, this was Midge's first house that she ever owned. It was her pride and joy. And she dies in the house. My dad meets another lady, gets married, and I think Midge got pissed off
Oh, I'm
because
sure.
after Midge, so my dad, he was a Pabst Blue Ribbon drinker, right? Back east, it was kind of the beer of of his generation if he lived in Illinois. But he would always frost his beer mugs in the freezer,
Yep.
and he had the old kind of freezers that would open like this. And after Liz moved in and they got married, he would open the freezer and they would just fly off and shatter, just fly off and shatter. Then he had the stairs from the back door that would go straight down. The light bulb would just shatter all the time. And then in the kitchen, they had a linoleum that would go to carpet. You could hear walking on the
Oh,
linoleum and
crazy.
then into the kitchen or into the living room. And this was a pretty small house. It wasn't a big house. It's an older house in Inglewood. So my dad and Liz move. So they moved out within a month or two of all this happening. Freaked my dad out. He was like, "Oh my gosh, the house was going to go into foreclosure." So it was just sitting empty. And at this time, I'm young. I'm 19 years old. I had my first child really young. And I'm like, "Oh, the house is sitting empty. I want to get out of my mom's house." So I moved into this house for a short time. And the one closet, so Midge would always keep her fur coats and her fancy dresses in the adjacent bedroom closet. Well, when my dad was there after she passed, that closet kept opening. Okay, the door just kept
Okay.
boom. So I was always aware of that, and it never happened when we lived there. But as the foreclosure process was going, we had to move out. And the person I was with at the time, who later became my husband and now my ex-husband, he was out packing up the garage. And I'm in the house packing it up, knowing we have to move out. And I was like kind of freaked out to go into the room to pack up the stuff in that closet. And so I'm watching, I'm like, I'm gonna watch something funny on TV and kind of get brave. I walked in the door to I still like in the closet, just boom, just like, here, let me help you. And opened the closet door and I was like, oh, at that time I was scared of ghosts. I'm not so scared of ghosts anymore. In fact, I'm kind of used, kind of, okay, come on, ghost, do your thing. But back then it scared the living out of me. Um, and I really do believe it's Midge that was doing that. Now, since that time, my dad has passed away. I wonder like if that house is still haunted. And I kind of want to go knock on the door and go, "Hi, I'm just curious. Is your house haunted?" Because if it is, I know who haunts it. It has to be Midge. But I wonder if things like that. Like, do ghosts once my dad passed away, did Midge leave? And is she at peace now and is with my dad? So the house is quiet? I don't know. But that place was just freaky. Oh, and so also the Steve that I was with, so he never met Midge. And he was laying in bed and we had a fish tank in the living room. So you had the fish tank light on so you could kind of see. And
Yeah.
in the hall, he saw the full-bodied apparition and it looked like she was just like standing in the doorway doing this, like with her hands. And he said he watched this thing for 5, 10 minutes, so much so he started trying to like communicate with it telepathically, like, what do you want? And then it just wouldn't go away. So he just finally rolled over because, yeah. And then the next morning he's like, by the way, was Midge like 5'5"? And did she, and I'm like, because that's what he saw in the doorway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm like, yep, that's Midge.
Very
And I got
interesting.
the sense that like she didn't want us to leave because she didn't do anything while we were living there. And just she started doing things when we were packing, getting ready to leave.
Okay.
So that was the most like crazy kind of things that happened. And here recently at this house, and I can send you the videos, but my mom passed away last July. And she was 92 years old. And my mom, she was into a lot of these different topics. And I always told my mom, like, if there's anything to the paranormal stuff, send me a sign, do something after you pass away. Well, it was 2 weeks after she passed away. My middle son was here with his girlfriend and Tony and I, and we're sitting on the back porch here, and we have a string of 12 outdoor lights.
Okay.
And five of the lights, not all of them, these all stayed steady, but started just going crazy. And at first, I'm like, oh, maybe they're on a timer, maybe something's wrong. But this has happened several times now since she's passed. And and just recently, the last couple times, and I'll send you the video, the five are doing one thing, the other half are doing nothing, but there's one light bulb and it's doing like a Morse code. And I'm recording it going, okay, what is the message? And I get frustrated with these lights because I'm like, is it my mom or is it like my dad or my half brother that is? We've lost a lot of people in this last year. What is the message? What are you trying to communicate? Is it a warning? Is it just like a comfort? So I think ghostly messages can get a little frustrating if you don't know what they're trying to
Yeah,
communicate
for
or
sure.
say. So I don't know for sure that's my mom, but the timing of it was right after my mom passed, and the lights started going. So that's kind of, and then here too at this house, when Tony first moved in from Virginia, this was almost 2 years ago now. He has he has a music studio downstairs, and we have these four magnetic, his favorite guitar players like securely on the wall, and we're just sitting in the family room downstairs watching TV, and three of them flew off the wall at the same time. Three, just
Well, that's
so
intense.
it's like, whoa. So things like that happen from time to time, you know.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, nothing's, in the year and a half I've been doing paranormal investigating, nothing that crazy has happened to me yet.
Well, it's interesting too. I was just recently gifted a clearing with a woman in Mexico who spent a lot of hours on a Zoom call with me, just kind of going through this process of clearing anything because she saw, the injuries from Beyond Skinwalker and stuff, and also the paranormal rangers. Also, while I was in Arizona, he did a ceremony with a clearing, and things just recently in the last couple months have calmed down. So there could be things like that can actually maybe work, kind of clearing your space or saging or things
Hmm.
like that, even from a distance. So part of me is like, where did y'all go? You know,
Yeah.
yeah, but.
So have you investigated any locations outside of Colorado, or do you primarily stay there?
Well, like I mentioned, I did St. Augustine Lighthouse, which the craziest thing that happened at St. Augustine Lighthouse. So there's the story of the two little girls that passed away there when they were, on this sled and they both drowned right there.
Okay.
So coming from Colorado, we were at the very top of the lighthouse. We had our K2 meter and our digital recorder. And it was just me and my son Vincent at the top of the lighthouse at that time. And I just started talking to the girls, telling them, hey, I came a long way to investigate, and I came a long way all the way from Colorado. And I don't know if you ever seen snow before, but Colorado has a lot of snow, and it's cold and it's wet. And as soon as I started talking about snow, going crazy, just
Hmm.
know. So then I'd stop and it would slow down and I'd go, so have you ever, and snow was like the key word. If I talked about the cold, wet snow. So I think
Interesting.
I was maybe communicating with those little girls. So that was a really cool experience there and got some EVP hits up there at the top of the lighthouse as well. So that was really neat. And we had, and then down further on the lighthouse, there's these little like places where you can rest or whatever, and there's a bench under a window under one of
Okay.
them. And we had another good session with EVP and the K2 there because we were leaving candy out for the girls. And that seemed to work too. Like, here's some candy and that kind of stuff. And we got some good interaction there as well.
Nice.
So that was my, I would say of all the places that had the most activity, it would be St. Augustine for sure.
Okay.
Hmm.
So are there any locations that you haven't been to that would be like a bucket list paranormal location to
Oh
investigate?
my gosh, so many. You know what I've always wanted to do is like one of the ships,
Oh, that'd be
you know.
awesome.
Yeah, in California, I know there's a good one. I think there's one in Pennsylvania that you can do tours on. I can't remember the name of the ship right now, but I always thought that would be fun because those have to be haunted as
Yeah.
heck.
Yeah, last July, I think
So,
it was last July, not this year, but in 2024, up in Duluth, we had the William A. Irvin up there. And I went with my friend's team and we got to investigate that. It's an old iron ore ship. And there was only one reported death on the entire ship. But it wasn't like a super active night, but it was like very interesting, besides it
right.
being hotter than hell, because it was like 90 degrees, and then you can just imagine what it is inside the ship.
Oh yeah, super hot. Have you ever done an asylum? Because that's another place. So my half brother was institutionalized most of his life at Pueblo State. So I have, that kind of place growing up with that. And he was an arsonist, burnt down two of our homes, one house in Lake Geneva and our other house here in Colorado when I was young. But I know a lot of those old asylums and state hospitals are quite active. Have you ever done that before?
Not yet. Next summer, we are going out to Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Oh,
So I've done a
that would
lot
be a
of,
bucket
we've
list.
done a few hospitals and like sanatoriums and, houses, but not an asylum yet. So
Oh, wow.
that's coming up. And we'll also be out at Penhurst also.
What did you have activity at those locations? I'm curious.
We've had, I'm still kind of going through the footage from a lot of our stuff we did over the summer, so I don't want to get, too much in that because I haven't put those videos out. But, we've had quite a few interesting experiences over the years. Like one back in on Easter, we were at Edinburgh Manor in Iowa, and, it was kind of a quieter night, storming, but we were off there. I think, how many of us were there? There was 8 of us, and we're all down in the kitchen area or dining room area doing the Estes session. And I heard something off towards the kitchen area. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go check it out. I don't know if it's the rain or if it's something paranormal or what. So I go roaming over there, and I did find out it was just rain beating against the metal siding outside the building. But then there's like this little hallway that connects into an office area, and another little hallway that connects to the main hallway between the dining room and the laundry room. And I heard my daughter clear as day off to the left of me go, "Dad." And
Oh,
I'm like,
and she wasn't with you?
well, she was, but she was in
Oh,
a
okay.
different place. I go, "What?" And I didn't get an answer. I go, "Natalie," I go, "what did you want?" They go, "She didn't say anything." So there was something mimicking her off to the left of me. And I'm just like, that was one of the craziest experiences.
Oh man. Yeah, chills.
But yeah, there is like over the summer we were at Waverly Hill Sanatorium, Post Town Elementary, Old Hospital, College Hill, and I'm still, going through that evidence and going to make the videos. But we had quite a bit of interesting stuff happen on that trip. So
Wow.
you have to stay tuned for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I want to get back into more of the ghost hunting. In fact, coming this Friday, we're going to be bringing all of our equipment to the Rocky Mountain Ranch and staying the night. Which I'm a little freaked out about because, in both times I filmed with Beyond Skinwalker, I had the big radiation burn on my shoulder. You can see those videos if you look at my behind the scenes footage on my YouTube channel, Rocky Mountain Ranch Research with Katie Paige. You can see that, and it literally looks like a hand and it blistered. It was hot to the touch. It was pretty crazy. And then at the landing site, which we had the team from Oak Island out there with their ground penetrating radar and stuff, and there's anomalies under the ground. Like it goes so far with the regular readings and it's just completely blacked out. And that's the same location where my sister and I were flipping the frisbee, and there was a large 75-foot diameter circle where nothing grew. I mean, the snow would melt, it would stay dry. It was very unusual. So I believe something's under that location, whether it's some sort of technology that we put there or something from somewhere else. I have no idea. But the dog, on the episode of Beyond Skinwalker, you see Greg and Nicole's dog won't even go to that site. It'll go anywhere else on the ranch, but not to the landing site. And so we were up there setting up a table to do, tests and experiments and stuff. And I was trying to like tough it out, get through it. I was actually looking forward to what we were doing. But I typically have really low blood pressure, but my blood pressure shot up. What's really crazy is Hillary had just put new mic batteries in all her microphones, and mine went from 100% to 50% drain. And then Andy or Paul walks me back to the barn there, and it went from 50 to nothing. So I'm having like this medical episode, and the med guy drove me back to Castle Rock after that happened. But what's really crazy is, I see those episodes when you guys see them. I don't preview them, right? I see them when they air. So I was texting with my sister, have you seen the new episode yet? Blah, blah, blah. That's the one that my sister came back with me on the ranch. And she informed me that her phone died at that moment. She was having similar kind of things happen, where, the pressure on the shoulders. And I felt horrible to the point where I just couldn't continue that night.
Wow.
And she was having the same thing happen, just the two sisters. But she didn't want to say anything. She didn't want to speak up about it. I'm like, you should have said something. And that coupled with the battery drains, which would happen time to time at the ranch. So yeah, we're going to be spending the night there Friday night. So I'm a little nervous and apprehensive, but we will see. We're going to fly the drone and, do an Etsy. You mentioned, the Etsy session? We're going
Estes
to do
session.
Estes session?
Estes. So like Estes,
Estes.
Colorado.
Estes, like Estes Park. Okay.
Yes.
Estes session. We're going to be doing
Yeah,
that.
that's
So,
where it actually originated from.
oh, really? From Estes Park?
Yeah,
From
so
Stanley?
well, I don't know if it was I can't remember the full story, but the person that did the session for the first time did it in Estes Park.
Oh, well, there you go. Estes Park's interesting. Tony and I just redid the Snippy the horse case, which is the 1967 first world recognized animal mutilation death in the San Luis Valley, which is another paranormal hotspot. Um, but come to find out, Snippy was actually born in Estes Park, Colorado. So
Okay.
that was that was a cool 6 month, 7 month thing we did along with the King family. We're actually republishing the book because of the cover. We had to change the cover of the book because Amazon thought this dead horse was too macabre, but it was so
Mm,
cool for, the original APRO files on the case for the Snippy case. They were missing for over 35 years, and they were just recently acquired by the National UFO Historical Record Center in Rio Rancho with 150 never seen before photographs and documents. And we got to learn so much more about this case, which is crazy because what I thought was just a dead, mutilated, first world recognized horse. Turns out they had these strange, mysterious boxes, cryptid sightings, paranormal things going on, UFOs and orbs all through the valley for, gosh, since the early 60s, not just 67 and beyond. Just so many parallels to the Rocky Mountain Ranch that I was like mind blown throughout that whole investigation. So it was a really cool project to do for the King family, who Nellie King was one of the original owners of Snippy the horse, along with her husband Burl Lewis. So that was a cool project. And now Tony and I are doing the Rocky Mountain Ranch book, and we're also doing the Roswell body book. So we got a couple book projects that are underway.
nice. So
Yeah.
when you investigate the ranch, do you just like investigate the property or the buildings as well?
The buildings as well, and actually, the first season there's so much stuff. I mean, you film for a week for these shows, and they only use 44 minutes. And of course, I was bummed to find out that they did not renew Beyond Skinwalker. So I don't think there's gonna be any more seasons, which is a bummer. I hope that changes, but I don't know. But so there's so many things that they film, like the mysterious boxes, for example. That's where I was walking when we saw the that first season in that first episode where it's snowing, and I'm walking with the camera crew to show them the location of the box sighting I had as a young girl in the daytime. And it was snowing hard, so footsteps were getting covered fast with snow and everything. And out of this just blanket of snow came these bipedal footprints that came and then they disappeared for maybe 6 to 10 feet and then reappeared and then disappeared again. And that was so cool that they caught that on camera because I mean, it wasn't deer, it wasn't, there's no cow there, there's no horse, there's no animals there, there was no humans out there. It was strange. And that's what's reported out there behind, in the Ponderosa Pines behind the ranch. So
Okay.
I think the episodes really have to go along with what they're doing on Skinwalker Ranch. So like they show the rockets and they show whatever, but they don't show all the other kind of cool, unusual things that are going on if it doesn't follow the storyline of Skinwalker Ranch. So
Okay.
it's kind of disappointing that some of those behind the scenes things didn't make it. In fact, the first season where I'm on the radio trying to communicate with that disembodied electrical voice that happened at the ranch, and it wasn't responding to anybody else, and I get on there and it's all the equipment's going crazy. While that was happening, we were getting like out of the CB radio stuff at the bottom, transmissions from the Vietnam War. And I don't know why they
Interesting.
didn't put that in the episode. I'm like, that was crazy. Why
I would
didn't
have
you
made
put that
sure
in
that
the
would have
episode?
gotten in something.
I know there's a lot of those kind of examples where I thought something would make it into the episode and they just don't put it in there, whether there's not enough time or what. Just like they did the biggest remote view in the history of the country with David Morehouse and a team of 70 remote viewers from several different countries. And they ended up just doing a little 7-minute bonus clip that didn't even make the episode. They touched on it on season two. I don't think they even talked about it on season three. But I'm like, so much information came out of that remote view, but it didn't make the episode. So if your listeners want to learn more about that, you can just go to Through a Glass Darkly, which is a podcast, and type in David Morehouse Rocky Mountain Ranch, and there's 6 hours of everything they found
No,
on the
interesting.
remote view. Yeah, it's really super interesting. I'm like, man, that should have made the episode. But I think History Channel, they don't know what to do with stuff like that. They just it's too much information.
Yeah.
So
Well, kind
same
of
with
like,
some of the more dark, esoteric kind of things that I found out about the ranch. They won't touch
I
that
kind of
either.
think too, like when Discovery, when Project Fear, when they were Destination Fear, with their episodes and what they got, it's like the same thing. It's like, I don't think they knew what to do with that because, like, each episode was 45 minutes and
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, these are shows to entertain and educate to a certain degree. And as an experiencer, that somebody who is a researcher, investigator, you don't have any control what they ultimately do. Um,
yep.
so I kind of just put it in a separate little box, like, okay, that's going to be that entity. And then what Tony and I in Rocky Mountain Ranch, our little team that we have, what we try to do is we'll go back to the ranch. I mean, I'm friends with the person who owns it now, Greg. And so with his permission, we go back and we try to recreate what they did for History Channel. Case in point, we put up the drone that we had, and within a minute, it was fully charged, and we put it over the landing site. Within a minute, that thing was draining. It was drained.
Wow.
So bring the drone back down, plug it into the car, and it charged extra fast, which was weird too. And we relaunched the thing, and it was fine. So whatever it is seems transient. Like I don't know if it's like pockets of energy that moves or whatever, but so this weekend when we go back out, we're going to put the drone back up and see if we get similar results, along with the Estes session
There you go.
and some other things that we're going to try. So I'll have to let you know what happens,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
staying out there. Yeah.
So for the ranch, is that like a location anybody can go investigate, or is that just kind of
Well,
by invite only?
Yeah, well, what's interesting too about the ranch, when I was a young child, I thought it was just kind of isolated on the one ranch property of the 60 acres. But come to find out through all my years of research and newspaper articles and everything, it's the whole county of Elbert County from Franktown to Elizabeth to Kiowa to Simla to Rama. So many people are reporting animal mutilations, paranormal type of things. And a matter of fact, we just recently, the Black Forest is really known for paranormal activity. That's another thing you can look up on YouTube for Colorado, just like Black Forest, Colorado paranormal stuff. And we have friends right now that have acreage, 8 acres in the Black Forest, and they're experiencing things like cars turning on, which we've had here actually happen too, but trunks opening mysteriously. They have cows and or dairy cows and some chickens and turkeys and a couple pigs, and they have a section of their fence. So we were there last weekend, and it's really crimped, really tight, like an animal cannot open this, and it would take a human a lot. And this thing mysteriously was opened one morning, and the crimps were still there. Things like that, just weird stuff. In fact, Tony flew the drone there just the other day. We're looking to look at the footage and it didn't record. So we're going to go back and see if that was just, I mean, he checked it to make sure it was on recording, nothing came through. So that's the first time that's ever happened with that, and that happened at the Black Forest. So ongoing activity out in that area. So to answer your question, no, you can't go to the Rocky Mountain Ranch itself because it's a privately, Greg owns it. That's his home. It's gated, you know, don't want to disturb him.
Yeah.
But really, you go anywhere in Elbert County, there's plenty of places, pretty rural still. You can just go park your car and, you might experience some things. And you can feel a shift in the energy too, just in locations around Elbert County. And what's really interesting about that, we have the Palmer Divide is very similar to like the Archuleta Mesa in areas, in the Uinta Basin by Skinwalker Ranch. So I really feel like and same with the Stanley Hotel. I really feel like a lot of these paranormal, high strangest hotspots have certain elements in common. They're like the Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, for example, and Rocky Mountain Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch and so many other places ping the charts at being extremely highly magnetic. So you can go to the magnetic anomaly maps of the country and look. So they're the lightest pink color, which is highly magnetic. They all have similar geological elements like limestone, granite, crystal, like in the San Luis Valley, the
Hmm.
Great Sand Dunes, and a lot of them have water features. So whether they're aquifers underground, rivers, streams, and lakes, and you put these three things together, high energy, certain, you know, crystals and things like that, and the water, and it seems to either allow us to interact with the phenomenon more, or maybe whatever is here is attracted to that and can manifest because it has high energy and all these things. I don't know what the answer is, but they do have those elements in common. So, and you can feel that at the ranch. Like you can feel a shift in the energy. And of course, these basins, Uinta Basin and Archuleta Mesa and now the Palmer Divide, I'm like, oh my gosh, they are very similar.
Yeah. One strange thing, I don't know if you've ever seen this out in the mountains, but so a year ago, I was out in Tabernash, Colorado for a week, and a friend and I were working at a retreat out at what the heck is it? Rocky Mountain YMCA.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like, out in the middle of nowhere. And, we saw the northern lights out there, but like in front of us, like in one of the mountain peaks, we kept seeing these two or three lights that look like car headlights. They'd get like really bright and dim, and then they'd disappear and come back, and they'd always be in the same place, but they were like flashing. And the one guy that was staying at the camp with us, one of the other volunteers, was saying, he goes, "Well, that's just cars from US 10 or whatever the highway is." I'm like, there's no way. I go, because like I've been out there like so many times it's like I know which way the highway goes. It doesn't run up there, and it's like there's no houses. So I was trying to like figure out what it was because it couldn't have been airplanes because they kept like appearing
Were
and
they low on the horizon?
yeah, like right
Yeah.
above the tree line.
God, that sounds so similar to a couple people have been sending me footage of things they're seeing around the San Luis Valley area. That's just like that, where you're seeing things just unusual. If you go to the Rocky Mountain Ranch YouTube channel, you can see the footage of these just crazy lights all down low like that. And you could, one of them was an airplane. You can identify that, but all the others, I have no idea what they are.
But
Crazy
yeah, this went
stuff.
on for like, we were
Yeah,
out there for a good hour or two and they
right.
kept appearing and disappearing. And it's like, I go, well, they're not stars because we've been out here for so long with the
Yeah.
Earth's rotation, you wouldn't be able to see them anymore.
Yeah, that's just like what other people are reporting out here as well. It's crazy. And I just have to make a correction. I'm just thinking in my mind. I don't usually talk about paranormal things. I'm usually in the UFO world. But the restaurant in Littleton is not Baby Doe's. I don't know why my head went to Baby Doe's. It's the Melting Pot.
Okay.
So the Melting Pot with the good fondue. But yeah,
Okay.
that's the one with the haunted bathroom. I'm like,
And
why did I
then
go?
was a
Baby
couple,
Doe's isn't even there anymore. I think I went to like my high school prom. I went to Baby Doe's. That was said to be haunted too, but they tore it down.
then a couple years ago, it was like 4:30 in the morning. I think it was spring or summer, I can't remember, but sometimes I get up early and go for a walk. And I step out my door and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was Starlink. So like, I saw,
All right.
I'm like, what the heck is that? And then I counted and I got up to 24. I'm like, oh, it's Starlink,
Starlink.
whatever.
Still cool to see.
Right, but just go about my walk and then I get up to the corner about a block away and then the same trajectory, I saw this bright light, moving really fast following Starlink and then it just stopped and
Oh,
then shot straight up.
yeah, that's not normal.
I'm like, should I go back inside or should I keep walking? I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I just kept walking, but it was just like so weird to see. I'm like, well, that's definitely not an airplane.
Right, right. Airplanes don't do that.
No.
Yeah, somebody posted the other day on Facebook too about one of the it was a time-lapse video kind of towards the San Luis Valley area, and it was of the meteor shower, right? So you see all these crazy meteor
Yeah.
showers, right? And you're like, wow, that's really cool. But in the footage, you see one shoot across like this, do a quick U-turn. Now, maybe because it's time-lapse, it could be a plane or a jet or
Right.
something, but it's definitely cruising along and then boom, like this. And it's in that same location where people are seeing these mysterious, crazy lights going all over the place for like an hour, 2 hours. It's like, what in the heck are we looking at right there? I don't know. I
All
don't
right.
know.
I don't know if you have watched any of Project Fear's videos that they put out on YouTube.
Mm-mm.
So they just did one episode where they were out investigating Area 51.
Ooh.
You should check that video. It was
Is that on the
really
crash that just recently happened?
no, they did it. They did it over like a 7 month period because
Okay.
they live out in Vegas, so they were going out there constantly for 7 months. But the stuff that they witnessed and recorded was insane. You
Oh,
should
maybe
check
I
it out.
did watch that. Maybe did you send me? Somebody sent me the link to that, and I did watch that episode. You're right.
Maybe
And
I
they
did.
were
I can't remember.
Yeah, but exactly. So what they were witnessing is what people are seeing here too, that those strange kind of, and I think one of them was like almost triangular in nature and they're kind of doing
You know,
these weird. Yeah, yeah, I did see that.
and then
Yeah.
they had like they
Really
were
interesting.
witnessing those like explosions and trying to figure out
Yeah,
what that was. But it's just like
right. It's crazy stuff. Yeah.
so.
I've
Just
been
kind of
out
like
at the,
go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, go ahead. No, you finish.
So just kind of like watching the drone video they put out, you know, earlier this year, and then the UFO one that just kind of really, sparked my curiosity in this again. Like,
Right,
trying to get more stories and wanting to do it myself, and trying to make my way out to the, desert sometime. And
right. Well, it's kind of interesting. when I used to be state director for Colorado MUFON and the STAR team, and we're getting all these reports. Some of my favorite reports that we got, like really credible, good sighting reports, close-up reports, were daytime sightings. But honestly, all you have to do is look up for any given time, and you're gonna see something
Yeah,
probably. 8 times out of 10. Whether it's, I mean, now I'm not saying they're all UFOs. Because gosh, 90% of all the reports that came in we can identify. I think the Iridium satellites are mostly decommissioned, but still a lot of the satellites will reflect. So if you see like the flashes,
yeah,
when Starlink first came out, we were inundated with Starlink cases because people didn't know about them. They're like, what the heck
yeah,
am I seeing? Um, and of course we have secret things flying around, but there's certainly something to. I know there's a team called Skywatcher that they're doing a lot of like just sky watches and stuff, and they're seeing things like what you described, just coming and just boom, shooting straight up or doing these crazy maneuvers. Now, when you have footage like that, it's hard to say that. I don't think we have anything like that. So,
right.
you know.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic, and I kind of want to get down that rabbit hole a lot more.
Right. What I was going to say earlier is the Area 51 area. So we're good friends with Jeff McBurney, who owns Mount Wilson Ranch. Mount Wilson Ranch was also featured on Beyond Skinwalker season one. Um, and I think he was on season two as well. But it's interesting. Bob Bigelow owned the Skinwalker Ranch and Mount Wilson Ranch at the same time, and so we've been out there. It's funny. I interviewed Jeff just recently for my podcast and stuff, and I'm like, so do you have paranormal things going on at Mount Wilson Ranch? And he's like, no, no, not really. But I'm like, what about all the shadow things and the stuff in the saloon and all that? Well, yeah, it happens so often that they see these shadows and these paranormal things and the shaman in these rooms that he just thinks it's normal, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's haunted. You know, man.
So I was gonna ask you, hold on, let me see if I can find that. Another, um, so Dolores Cannon, like those newspaper clippings, can you go into a little bit of detail on that?
Yeah, I mean, if I could turn my camera around this whole wall, well, there's so much data here, but they're still for sale, by the way. They're on eBay right now. Um, but the Dolores Cannon clippings, I mean, this was a newspaper clipping service, and this is something I learned early on as I started going investigating the UFO topic. Um, is like there's just thousands of magazines. So when I thought like, for example, when I just talked to you about the water and the magnetism and all that, I'm like, oh, I'm really onto something cool here. They were talking about this stuff like in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. It's like nothing new. I kept getting my bubble burst. But just so much overwhelming information out there. Like if you can, the National UFO Historical Records is open for visitors on the weekend. You can check out their website. And if you're ever in New Mexico, check out that. I'm big on history and archives. So, like an example, there's the American Heritage Center in Laramie, and they have a collection there by Richard Haynes, who just focused on pilots, military pilots, civilian pilots, all these different, and they're boxes and boxes and boxes of these reports. And if you start digging into these, then you're like, okay, something's going on, that kind of thing. But yeah, the Dolores Cannon papers, it was just a newspaper clipping service that would collect all these newspapers. I mean, just sitting here under my desk, for example, I mean, and there's tons of these that I have. And so what they would do is these are just, I mean, thousands upon thousands of articles, and that Dolores Cannon collection would take and go through all the papers across the country, sometimes around the world. I think some of them are global, and this service would just, anything about UFOs, and you'd get them mailed to you. And the collection I had was Doris Cannon's personal collection, so it is available on eBay still, right now. But yeah, we've been going through all of these documents to help Ryan Wood. He has a service called ufodex.com. So it's wonderful because it's, instead of just going to Grok or Chat GPT, he has taken hundreds and hundreds of UFO books, cryptid books, and other kind of cool topic books and newspaper articles, including the Dolores Cannon ones that he just came here and scanned. So I think there's over 10,000 PDFs now in his database. So you can go to ufodex.com, write a question about anything you want, and he'll go through that big database and answer the question through the data.
Nice.
We'll give you sources and all that stuff. So it's just more topic specific than like, Chat GPT or something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, so there's just so much information about all of this, that it's just like, I stayed out of the cryptid world for years. I'm like, I don't know if I believe in Bigfoot. But once I started meeting Bigfoot people and people who are investigators in that topic, I'm like, this is just as big as the UFO world. There's so many credible sightings that something has to be going on with these
Oh, for sure.
creatures, and I think they're like interdimensional. I think they can phase in, phase out. I don't know if they're underground, what's going on there, but they're certainly not physical all the time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
another question I have. So what is your take on what is it? Three Eye Atlas, is it? What's your take
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, my take on that is that it's an interstellar comet, and but I mean I'm open to if it's something else, I guess great. I mean, cool. But I don't think it is. But there's a lot of hype about it, and there's a lot of people saying it's, performing, different maneuvers or different. My question is like, why can't we just take the James Webb telescope and get a good photo of this thing? Why? I mean, I don't know. And then
Right.
I have, Mark D'Antonio is a good friend, and he's an astronomer, and he's like, there's nothing spectacular about this other than it's the third interstellar asteroid that we have or coming through. So I don't know. I don't think it's a spaceship or anything like that.
Yeah, because it just seems like every day I go on to Facebook and there's something new about it. Like, oh,
Yeah, I see
it's
that too.
shifting course. It has like other ships flying next to it, and you can see people moving around on it.
No, how
I'm
could they
like,
do that?
I'm like, how? It's so far away yet.
Yeah, no. That's the thing, I love having access to all the fun toys we have now with AI, all the fun tools and things like that. Um, I just started actually a new business called Merging Moments, where like last night I made a video of the grandfather I really never knew. He died when I was 3 years old, and I took an old photo of him. I only have one or two of him, and then me when I was little, and made this cool minute-long video of
Oh yeah,
us
I think I
interacting.
did see a post
Yeah.
on
Yeah, I
that.
did my father too, because yeah, of today. So I did one of my father too, when he was 18 years old in the Navy. So I thought, how cool is that to be able to recreate these moments for people, right? But the thing is, we're easily fooled too. You don't know what to believe. UFO investigations are harder. Paranormal investigations are harder because
Yep.
now I can make a fake me that has my voice that looks just like me, and you won't know what's real and what's not. So
Right.
it's a tricky time to be investigating these things, for sure.
Yeah, because I could be out there and like evidence I get, somebody goes, "Well, you're faking that." I'm like,
Right.
no, it's like so like when I put out my videos, I kind of do a little different approach where it's like I'll go through and watch the footage and like, put the good stuff in and weed out, just nonsense, the babble, the talking, whatnot. But it's
Hmm.
like I put them out there as they are. I don't, do any other editing. I want people to like, watch it and see what their take is and see what they get out of it. I don't put like all
Right.
the extra jazz into it and make them like,
Right. No, that's really smart of you to do it that way. And more people are going to have to do that. Just here's the raw. I had a guest. I have actually had her on twice now on the trifecta. L. Sydney Fisher. And on the first time I had her on, L. Sydney Fisher, she has written so many unbelievably great paranormal books. And she actually shared a video, and very clearly you can see an apparition of a little girl. And it was not faked, it was not tainted, it was like legit. But yeah, I think our jobs now is so much more difficult. So it's kind of, you know, really great to have it on one. I mean, never before have we been able to just blah, 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 and make all these connections. But at the same time, I'm leery about everything I see, everything, especially on Facebook and social media, even like nature, bird footage, like, yeah, like those colors are too beautiful to be actually, and no,
right?
they're AI generated. So
And like,
I don't know.
for the videos I put out, if somebody doesn't like them and, would leave a comment saying, hey, there's not enough ghost stuff in here, it's boring. It's like, you
So,
know, take it as it is. It's like, that's
right.
your opinion. It's not going to phase me. It's like, I just want to put out the raw footage and, as I'm experiencing it.
Right. And you have to have tough skin in this field as well. Like I'm older now and I'm at that age. I love that. That comes with age. That's one good thing about aging. You get to have that, like, I don't give a crap.
Right,
My life is my life. And I really do believe, like, I don't know if we're in a simulation or whatever, but it makes sense to me that we would be because it would answer so many of these paranormal type of things, UFOs, cryptids, ET, all that stuff. If we're all manifesting our realities, then who am I to question your reality or your reality or
right.
your reality if we're manifesting our realities? You
Well,
know
like
what I'm
one,
saying?
yeah, like
So
one question I had earlier in the summer or earlier this year, I can't remember when it was, but for a psychic medium, it's like, okay, here we are investigating the spirits and the paranormal, but like a question I had is like, what if they're investigating us?
I'm sure they are.
It's
I'm
like
sure they are. Yeah.
it's like that'd be kind of a cool experiment to like, try to figure out what they're doing on the other side.
Right. No, I think Earth is a school of hard knocks. And it would only make sense to me that there are beings that are probably more advanced or greater than us or creators. I don't know who, but it's like, how are they going to work through A, B, C, and D in their lives? Because this is not an easy place to incarnate.
No,
It's hard being here for everybody. Even if your life appears to be
perfect.
wonderful and perfect and you have all, look at Whitney Houston or so many other people that appear to have their lives everything they could ever dream of, beauty, talent, money, everything, and yet they still got to go through the crap,
Yep,
right? So it wouldn't surprise me that, either there's whatever that they're learning through us and we're learning. Our own souls are learning, and other people's souls are learning through the hardships of being incarnated in these physical bodies, you know.
yep, for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I certainly don't I mean, I'm very open-minded to anybody. I didn't used to be that way. It took me a lot of years to kind of really open up. I mean, just like somebody was like, really, that sounds a little, hmm. That's why you mentioned Three-Eye Atlas. Like, I don't believe that we could see little aliens in it. If it turns out to be a spaceship, I have, a little bit of belief that maybe there's something unusual to it, but probably not.
It'd be cool because, it's going to happen someday.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it happens, in my lifetime. That'd be cool.
Yep,
But that's what we all say too, and then nothing happens. So,
yeah. Or if not in my lifetime, at least, my kids, if they could witness something like that, or,
right, right. Yeah. Well, I think if it's going to happen, it'll happen within the next the state of the world right now. It's like, come on, man. Show up,
yeah,
you
the
know.
only the only thing I know is like I tell my daughters, I go, I want to see Haley's Comet again, and then after that I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll probably be about 87 or 88 when it comes again.
Oh wow. Yeah. That was one of the coolest things. If you ever have the chance to see a total eclipse of the sun, do that. That was a really cool experience to have that. So
Well, I'm sure.
that should be on people's bucket list. Total eclipse of the sun.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that should be on everybody's bucket list.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, anyways, with that, if after we're done here, if you want to send me anybody's links you mentioned, that way I can put them at the end of the podcast so people can check them out. That'll make it a little easier on me than trying to go back and rewatch. And
Yeah, for sure. I will definitely do that, and I will let you know what happens this next week after we're back from the ranch.
all right, sounds great. And
Yeah,
then if you can join us on Tuesday, was it Tuesday night I said for the next podcast?
yeah. Okay, yeah. It looks pretty open, so I could probably do that. Just shoot me a time.
All right, yeah, it'd be about, all right, I'll end this and then we can chat about
Okay.
that quick. All
Okay.
right, well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for
And
having me.
yes, I look forward to talking on the next podcast.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Right.